In this week's Torah portion, the Torah reading of Bo, we learn about the final three plagues of the 10 plagues, and we also learn a couple of life lessons that we can take with us into our own personal lives. Shalom, my friends. It's the Kiva Gersh with Israel in 5, where we give you everything Israel in 5 minutes. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, want to keep the conversation going, please do so below in the comments. In last week's Torah reading, we learned about the first 7 of the 10 plagues, and in this week's Torah portion, we learn about the last 3. And on some level, we can say these last 3 are the most intense. We have the hail, we have the darkness, and we have the most intense of them all, the final of the 10 plagues, which affects everyone all over Egypt, is the killing of the firstborn in the middle of the night. And there were cries throughout Egypt. And we learn after that, finally, Pharaoh runs over to Moshe and to Aaron, Moses and Aaron, brothers, and they say, "Get out of here." He says, "Get out of here. Take your stuff, leave your animals, your children, everything. Go, whatever you want to do. Just get out of my land. I'm done with this. I can't take this anymore." And finally, after hundreds of years of slavery, of servitude, of bondage, of oppression, the Israelites are finally free. It's an amazing thing. They begin their journey and they're leaving Egypt and they are free. We'll continue that story in next week's Torah portion because it doesn't end as maybe one would expect, that they're free and now they're free forever. Right? We'll learn what happens, but that's for next week. But for now, let's take a look at 2 passages from this week's Torah portion and see the lessons that we can learn from it and how we can apply these lessons to our lives, which is the ultimate purpose of reading and learning these Torah portions week after week. In the final plague, the plague of killing of the firstborn, the Israelites are told, right? They were told already a few days before to take a sheep, to tie it up, and then a few days later to slaughter it. And this sheep was the one of the gods of the Egyptians, right? So they would see and they would ask, "What are you doing?" And the Israelites would say, "Oh, in a few days' time, we're going to slaughter it." And the Egyptians would be like, "What? You're going to slaughter our God?" And then God told the Israelites then to roast it, not to cook it, not in any other way, just to roast it. That's the way that the smell of the sheep will wander off into the neighborhood, so to speak, in the houses of the Egyptians, and they'll know exactly what the Israelites are doing. It's really to emphasize and to really strengthen this idea that the Israelites are literally slaughtering one of their main gods. And then God tells them to take the blood, right, from this Paschal lamb, right? This is the first Passover offering, right, which then becomes the future Passover offering, offered every single year in the temple in Jerusalem. Before that, the tabernacle. And so they take the blood, and God tells them, take from the blood and put it on your doorposts, so that when basically the angel of death goes around Egypt and kills, right, the firstborn of each family in each home, you will be protected, you will be saved. So there's a question there. It's like, God knows everything, right? God doesn't need the Israelites to put blood on their doorposts to know that that's the house of an Israelite and not of an Egyptian. God doesn't need signs to know which one is Egyptian and which one is Israelite. God will know because God knows everything. So what's the deal with putting up the blood and making a sign so that the angel of death, doesn't, come to their house? And so one idea behind this is that, yes, of course, God could have done that, but God wanted us to do something. God wanted the Israelites to take an action, to stand up and say, "Yes, here I am. This is me. I'm an Israelite. I'm part of your people." Right? This is who I am. I'm taking an action to identify myself, right, as part of this people, part of this tribe, right? And that's a very powerful thing. All right. We often, see in the Torah miracles that are really just, really big out there miracles start with some kind of small, physical, everyday kind of normal action. And that's what God wanted from the Israelites, right? From their side, right? That they should also participate, so to speak, in this moment and take an action so that they should be saved. Right? That's I think, a really powerful and beautiful teaching that we can take into our lives. This idea, like, we're here to act. We're people of action, right? Not to always rely on, oh, we'll see what happens, or oh, well, if it's meant to be. No, even if it's meant to be, we are still meant to take actions. right? And to do something, and really, put ourselves forward and put ourselves forth in an active kind of way, helping to create that reality that we want to see. So that's one idea. The very, very end of this week's Torah portion, right? The 10 plagues are over. The Israelites are leaving. It's an unbelievable thing. And then the Torah portion ends basically with telling us about Passover and how we're going to observe this day in the future, what it's going to look like in 7 days, and eating matzah. And then it says these beautiful words: when your children ask you, what is this? Like, what's this about? You'll tell them this story. You'll tell them the story of what happened. And so, of course, only the first generation can tell their children the story in first person. Yeah, I was there. This is what happened, and this happened, and then we experienced that, and then there were the plagues, and then we got out, and it was unbelievable, right? And all the generations after will tell it in the third person. This is what our ancestors experienced. Our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and then thousands of years down the road, our ancient ancestors. They're the ones who experienced this. But the important thing is that the story gets told from generation to generation, as we say in Hebrew, medor ledor, which is one of the most fundamental aspects of Judaism, of the Torah, of many traditions out there, right? This passing down of the tradition, passing down of the story, telling our story, right? The Torah is telling a story here, and we're meant to give it over, to pass it on to the next generation so that they should know their story, that they should know their history, they should know where they come from, what happened to their people, what happened before they were born, right? In order for them to get here and for them to be here, right? And to understand what kind of tradition they're part of. Right? So they feel that connection and also that responsibility to do, going back to our first teaching, to do, right, some things in order to keep the story and the tradition going forward and tell that story and continue telling that story to the next generation, right? To receive and to pass it on, to be a link in this chain of tradition, but not to lose your link, to make sure it's solid, to make sure it's strong, right? So that the chain keeps on going. All the best, my friends, and be well.